All right, now it's done. If you go to our information, that's how many voxels we have. Almost 1 trillion voxels. It's a huge number. Okay, and we are on frame 60. So yeah, by mistake I accidentally added density field into my cache. It's empty, but anyway, we will change our post process like we don't have this field. So we can see that nothing here. Connect my Pyro post process. And I will set that I don't have a density, so I copy any field here, maybe like a temperature, and disable that. Disable the density over here, press 0. All right, and I want to copy my transform node, or I can simply, there is simple transformation because I make a scale like 0.1, so I can add just a transform node here, and can make it 10 times bigger, or do the same option, invert transformation, and type here 0.1 as we did with the geometry. So I will increase the scale, this seam, to have a proper view from my camera. So now if you go into my building cam, that's what I have. And now we can see that because of the big amount of fuel in this area, we have a less fire here and more fire there. And again, yeah, if I want to, basically, if I want to do this project for like a final, do the simulation for my final project, I definitely will separate my windows from the roof. But in this case, I want to play a little bit with my post process and just add a little bit more intensity scale for all my flames. And then in the post-production, I can separate those two elements. There is not a very good preview here because with the more high resting we have, the more memory we need to have here for representation. And I don't have a very powerful GPU and very powerful video card. So this preview is very, very low quality. Anyway, I will change the frame range from from 0.1 to 0.2 and make a little adjustments here on this curve. So now you can see we create much brighter result. My fire in Windows have a little bit more reddish color, and reason for that is our black body physical shader, because it's looking on the temperature, and depending on this temperature, we apply a color from our fire. So I choose a ramp, or I can even copy my Pyro process from here. I don't have here, yeah, this I did in the another project. So anyway, we can add another ramp. So what I want to do, I want to unlink this stuff. So I just cut this area. And I want to play a little bit with ramp. Each time when I do some changes here, I need to wait a little. So a little bit better and much quicker is to set some properties with disabled updating. Each time I do this, with the new settings, so I don't have any presets or something like that. Well, you can do this. In fact, if you want to, you can make a bunch of presets for your ramp here. You can save this Pyro process. Just simply go and save preset with your setup, with your ramp colors, with your settings for intensity or something like that. But anyway, in each scene, you're gonna have a different temperature range and inside of your simulation, and you need to adjust those stuff. But just to a little bit better test, you can save this preset, call this like a gradient fire or something like that. And each time if you want to add this gradient, you can just select it from here. You will see the many presets over there. And let's connect it again. Because each time you will have a different temperature ranges, and you need to combine those colors and position for those points to get a better result for you. So that's why it's go to out, and I have the fires pass input and the building view as a force mate. So all the stuff, maybe I disable motion blur for a moment just to quick tests and make render. I want to use a preview mode for now, and I just want to see the intensity. So if this intensity will be fine, then I can play with the texture from a fire, play with the gradient ramp side of the pyro post process. And you can see why it doesn't I'm not seeing anything, any reason for this, why I can't see you. That's interesting, why I can't see my file. Let me just look on. Yeah, I see my file from the camera. Oh, basically I know why, maybe because because of the camera, maybe this physical. I change camera over there, and no, it doesn't matter. I can see you. So go to object, something can be here. Oh, maybe because of, no, there's no render. That's interesting, why I can see a preview but I can see a render. And I think I know why it's happened. We said that we don't have a density field, but we have a density field. So let's imitate that we really don't have a density field. Add a blast node and say we don't have a density. So I remove the density field from this information, and now it should work, hopefully. Yeah, let's wait a little bit. Yeah, now we can see that it's working. Now it's working, and we have just like 700 megabytes for memory render, and this including the building and the file. So we can hold the left mouse button to see this file in more details. So basically that's how we can create a file. Let's just make some changes here. So drag it here, maybe. I just want to play a little bit with the ranges for my file. Oh, sometimes that could be. Enable cleanup tab geometry. That's fine. I hope it won't. That's good. So maybe I just want to make it 0.34, and for this guy 0.32, and for my black line point, I don't know, like an 18 maybe, to make them more closer and make it a little bit more reddish, like over there. For this guy, maybe put it this position, so we have 0.69, maybe even closer, so like 0.75, let's see. And for you, somewhere there, yeah, could be fine. So 0.1.2, 15, yep, all's linear. Let's render, and I turn off the preview. And when I finish with my render, I guess I need to add some motion blur. That's a pretty nice file. Add maybe a little bit more details to output. So in the volume, our sampling volume sample, we can play with a little bit bigger amounts for the step rate. In this case, I want to have a nice gradient, so I'll increase the volume step rate even more to 0.75. That will be a little better, and the pixel samples to like 44. For a huge simulation, I prefer to use like 5 or 6 even pixel samples, because I want to have a good quality without any kind of noise. Especially if you work with the lighting from the fire, if you use the volume lighting, sometimes an explosion, and you want to get a nice lights or a nice render without too many noise. Because in this case, all we have just a nice texture. There's not too many noise, but yes, now with the motion blur and some bigger samples, we will have a little bit better result. Anyway, we can play with the fire on a post-production in compositing stage. This is post-production, I mean the compositing stage after you render out this thing. Okay, so you can play with different colors. You can make less intense color, but anyway, again, this is my main problem because I work and in effects and in compositing. So when I look on this picture and I say, maybe I want to play a little bit with my color, and then, okay, I can do this in Nuke. I can get a grade node or add a color correction node and say, okay, I just want to play with this fire color to match with the background or to match with different other simulation. It's important when you have different simulations, and sometimes your color may be different because of the different temperature. The bigger temperature here, the less temperature there, and even when you create the same, you just copy your DOP network, and that's why you will have the same setup for the Pyro solver and for other settings. You can get a little bit different colors, a little bit different intensity, because you can have different sources. Like here we have this window, and maybe this small window over here will have less geometry. We will have less geometry, we will have a little bit less fuel for that, and with the less fuel we're going to have less intensity, maybe less temperature. Less temperature, we're going to have the different this temperature range will be, so we need to move those lines maybe here or here in different position to match with another simulation. Or you can change the color, because again you can play with the temperature, especially if you use the black body shader. It depends very high from the temperature. So, and then in compositing stage again you can play with the brightness with the black and white point, mainly with white point, to get the all gradients. You can see from there that in the one by default, when we have this render, we have a very bright solid yellow color here, and I don't like it. But anyway, in Nuke I can decrease the white point, especially for this area, and then I will play with the color to match with Windows. And as I said again, if I will do this for the final scene, I will separate my windows from the fire, because it's not just about the amount of fuel as we did. We can play even with maybe with a flame height, in our case with the flame lifespan, to make a little bit bigger flames, because we have a high temperature, more objects will burn out here. So, but in this case I'm gonna play on post. So let's stop this render and let's go to Nuke. And here's my fire. So this, you can see that I'm mad here because this is not my final project, it's version 2, and I just make different setups from different even software. I have a Houdini, I have a 3ds Max with a Phoenix. So there's a lot of different kind of simulation with the particles, without particles, and with some roof tests from Houdini and any kind of element. And this my render from Houdini. And what I did, I apply my grade as I said. I just make a simple rotor to select just this part of the simulation and decrease the, well, increase the white point to decrease the brightness in those areas. All right, and after a few corrections, I have the fire like this. It's more artistic fire. It's not, maybe not like in real life, because sometimes it's in real life it's very bright, okay? So there is many brightness and we can't see, you know, such many details over there, but this picture is the final result you can find here is at night, and I just want to play with this. Yeah, I definitely want to remove some of those elements or send them into some blur or something like that to avoid such stuff, and definitely to add a render of the burned wood. So it's just a cover with the fire without any, you know, texture for my windows, for my window frames, but that a lot of detail here on the roof, many different kind of fire, more fire here, you know, with big brightness and big brightness over there. So I play a little bit with the glowiness. So you can see a lot of different things we can add in the post and in a compositing stage. Some smoke on a foreground, some smoke on a background, sparks, and etc, etc, etc. All right. So sparks I did separately. You can use your advection for aggregating the particles from here, and or you can create just simple particles. In my case, I create a particle simulation separately, so it's not a task for our lesson, but just using the pop network is some different turbulence setup. I use the same sources for the particles. And you can find some lessons how to advect your pop network using already prepared simulation. If you have a simulation like here, like this sim, where you are, like this sim, you have velocity, and you can create a pop network. So where is my, let's go here. I just want to show you a simple example how to do this, but you can play with that. We have a source, so it's my window 1 out, I guess. And let's go and create, sorry, not pop network. Maybe even here on the building geo, let me show you. Here's my window 1, without transformation. So I want to take my transform. So here's my window. I'll do the pop network for generative particles using this geometry. So go inside of it, source, scatter out surface, and there is no surface, sorry, because we have the pocket geometry. And let me just connect this transform over here. Yeah, so I create a bunch of points, and then I can apply the volume advect, pop advect by volumes. That's what I can add here. So by default, there is no any kind of movement for my particles. I don't have any force, I don't have any wind or something like that. So all I can get is pop advect by volumes. And I can select my sub, so I get my volume here. So let's go and choose, where's my fire import, building fire import, fire 1 out, and accept. So now I have the velocity, I have my simulation already done, simulation with velocity. I go to update velocity, and when I play this, we can, let's go to velocity, blend, go to 1. So, and you can see that now my particles are moving from this window and just going to generate a little bit less amount of particles. I don't want to get such many. And like, I don't know, 100, the burst rate. And life expectancy, maybe like 2.1. And now my particles flying away with my fire. So velocity from my simulation will move my particles with the same speed, with the same direction as the fire moves. Well, actually my simulation, the fire and density and all that stuff. And to get even better result, you can use some forces. You can use the wind, let's say the pop wind. You can apply the amplitude for your turbulence. You can apply the wind velocity to, to blow out all those particles in some direction. So you can play with those stuff, and when you have a nice result, you can separately render out those particles. And you can do this. I guess that I somewhere have those separate particles, because in many cases I measured them, I guess over here, yeah. So this my particles just fly away from this area. Let's go to input. Oh, come on. So from 100, yeah, now it's fine. Pre-mold. Now you can see my particles moving. I add a motion blur, yeah, for those. So in this case, I'm not using the advection from my power simulation, because I want to send my particle away from my fire, and that's why I create just a simple wind, which is moving in the vertical and a little bit angle, from the x-axis, and create some turbulence. So you can, select, you can decide what you want to do better, to use the pop advect by volumes or just a pop wind and a nice amplitude to imitate the temperature difference, which will create our turbulence for the particles. And again, as you can see, I add the color for the particles here and nuke to match with the colors again, and I don't want to play with that on a render stage, so I even render them as an alpha channel. They black, totally black, we can't see them, just an alpha channel. And then I add a color and a pre-mold, and then a glow, and etc, and now I have those particles flying away from this area. Okay, you can play with the particle life. Some of those can die after they created. Some of those can fly away for a few seconds or less, and it should work. Oh yeah. Okay, so that's what I want to show you with flames, and how we can basically, how we can basically play with the sparse mode. And you can see that it's very, very useful. And with my 32 gigs RAM, I can't create a simulation with such a huge number of voxels. I can't even dream about that. So it's 500 and the start, and it's 960 million voxels on frame 60, as we saw. And yeah, you can see that's not, this is like the size of this container. You can see this container is very huge. And yeah, we save this seam just where information exists. If there is empty field, there is no information stored in our files. So I make the simulation, the fire sparse, and you can see that it's take how many times it takes. So from 124 to 442. So it's take like 3 hours and 20 minutes. And on this frame 60, we have a 798 megabytes per frame. So it's even less than 1 gigabyte per frame. All right, so that's how we can very efficiently use our container just to avoid the file sizes, a huge amount of voxels, and get a nice simulation.